Hello, Art100 class. My name is Kara Smulevitz. I think we probably already met in my welcome video, but here you are in our first lesson. So this first lesson of the class is going to sort of set a pattern for our semester together. Each lesson is on a particular theme, and then each lesson will have an overview video like this one where I basically tell you what to expect in the lesson, go over any things that I think might be tricky, and just introduce the theme overall. So our first theme is called the art of slow looking. I know that's a slightly funny phrase, slow looking, but think about how quickly you usually look at things. You know, just flipping through internet pages, glancing at things and interpreting them quickly, skimming things that you have to read for school or skimming information when you're signing up for something. There's a lot of fast looking that we do. I notice myself doing it when I'm driving. You know, you don't want to look at something too hard when you're driving, so I will process information, looking at ads, billboards, things like that, just really, really fast. So fast looking, it's what we're used to, and it's good in a lot of contexts. But slow looking is a really great skill that allows you to be more critical and thoughtful in all different kinds of aspects of life. So that's what we'll be focusing on in this unit. One point that I think is important to kind of make clear right away is that when you look carefully and critically at art, it actually trains your eyes and your brain to look carefully and critically at other stuff as well. I know many of you who are taking this class, it's your first introduction to art. You're probably not an art major. Maybe you have some interest in art from before, maybe you don't. But, you know, this class is for beginners. And sometimes people feel like, well, I can look at artworks and I can learn that particular category of experience, but it'll just end there. But what I have found teaching this kind of class for a long time is that when you spend time concentrating on how to develop your looking muscles, they're not really muscles, but the part of your brain that interprets carefully, it actually helps you look at the rest of the world as well. So looking at artworks will make you appreciate the artworks, but it also becomes a kind of training ground for looking at and interpreting other types of things more critically, which I think is really good and we all need. So in this lesson, we'll practice how to do that. And one of the ways that we'll practice it is by learning terms that will help you describe and analyze artworks. And then, of course, you'll try out those terms. I know learning terms doesn't sound very exciting, but something that happens with learning terms for describing art is that when you learn more words about how to describe elements of an artwork, it actually helps you see more in the artwork. I know that's kind of a funny idea, but it's definitely true. It's like if you learn 5 different terms for different types of line, then when you look at a painting, you can actually see those types of line in a way you couldn't have otherwise. So it's like giving it a name allows you to see more. So we'll learn those terminologies, not all of them, but we'll spend some time learning lots of different ways to describe visual phenomenon, and then you'll practice trying them out. And you'll see other people try them out in the videos that I provided. We will also practice thinking about the context for artworks and what they can say about the time periods and cultures in which they were created. So studying art isn't just about looking at the artwork, it's also about understanding how it reflects its society. So who made the artwork? What was their life like? Who was the artwork for? Why did the person make it? How would people have received it at that moment? All of those questions can tell you a whole lot about the society that produced the artwork. And I think that's really interesting. For me, that's what got me into art history in the first place. You know, I liked looking at art, but I also really enjoyed learning about culture and history. And studying art became a way to do that. By looking at the artwork, I could understand and connect to people from that time period and get a broader sense of what was going on there. So we'll practice that a little bit too, how to make connections between an artwork and the broader context. One kind of sticky point that I'm anticipating people maybe getting confused about in this lesson is the difference between these two terms, content and context. They're discussed a lot in your readings, but I think that there's something that people get a little turned around about. So I just wanted to talk about them a bit here. That term content, that just means subject matter, really. So look at this painting, for example, by Claude Monet. He's a French painter associated with the Impressionist movement. So the content in this painting is just what's happening, the story being told, the scene that we see. So we see this woman She's sitting here alongside a tree. She's staring out into the river. You can see she's relaxed. Her hat is next to her. Looks kind of peaceful. Across the river, we can see some other people. Those little dots there are people. We can see this canoe, the houses, the hillsides. All of that is the content. This painting isn't really telling us a story. It's just showing us a scene. If it was telling us a story, the story would also be the content. So whatever the painting just has in it in terms of subject matter. Then there's this term context. So let me give you an example of a contextual kind of interpretation of this painting. So if you notice with this painting, it's capturing a moment that feels very unposed. It's just showing a moment in time like a snapshot. It's from 1868, which is a time period during which photography was first becoming normalized. Photography had been invented a few decades earlier, but as it became more common, you see it really influencing artists. And this idea of a painting that just looks like a captured moment in time, like a snapshot, is something that probably wouldn't have happened without the addition of photography into people's imaginations. So artists like Monet were kind of processing how photography helps people see differently and applying some of those ideas in their paintings. Okay, so that little bit of analysis I just did, that was talking about something that happened around this time, photography becoming more of a normal part of society and affecting painters. So that's actually about context. It's me looking at this painting and something about it, the fact that it looks like a snapshot, that it just captures a single moment, and then I'm working outward from the painting and connecting it to what was happening in society. So that part would be context, whereas if I was just talking about what's actually happening in the painting, that would be content. Okay, hopefully that helps clarify it a little bit, and again, you'll read more about this in your readings. Okay, so now you can get started on this lesson right away if you have time. And you'll just page through the module and you'll see these different sections. So this particular lesson has a few things for you to do. Because it's our first week, our first lesson, you'll do an introduction assignment on the discussion board. I think it's a really fun, kind of creative one. And that's how you'll introduce yourself to your classmates and to me. Then you'll have readings and videos to take notes on. That will be true in every lesson. So every lesson will have a page with readings and videos. I will have written some of it, and then there's links to other articles and videos that you should also watch, read, and take notes on. Then you'll have a quiz on all that. That'll also be true in every lesson. You'll always have readings and videos and then a quiz. Then you'll have a short essay where you'll practice applying what you've learned. In every lesson, you'll have some kind of assignment. It's not always going to be an essay, but this time it is. So this short essay is going to be an analysis of an artwork where you basically just try out what you've been reading and write a short thing, I think it's about 3 paragraphs, where you try to analyze an artwork. Then, at the very end of the semester, you'll actually write that again. So you'll look at that same artwork and write a more in-depth analysis using everything you've learned throughout the semester. So this essay you're doing in this lesson is kind of the beginning of what will eventually be your final project at the end of the semester. Okay, so that's everything for this lesson. Go ahead and get started. Remember, you can always reach out to me via email, or if you prefer to chat, we can make a Zoom meeting and talk about it in person if there's anything you're confused about. And I hope you have a great day.